Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast. Today, we are going to be taking a look at Anheuser-Busch Inbev,
Okay.
ticker symbol BUD.
All right.
So, maybe you're looking at your portfolio and thinking,
Yeah.
what's the deal with this stock?
Yeah.
We're going to try to unpack their recent performance and see if we can figure out what the future might hold for them.
Sounds good.
It's interesting because this isn't just about beer.
Right.
Anheuser-Busch InBev is a global company dealing with all these different, changing consumer tastes, geopolitical issues, volatile stock market.
For sure.
It's a pretty interesting case study.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there.
And speaking of the stock market,
Okay.
BUD just released their Q4 2024 earnings.
They did.
And they just blew past expectations.
It did. They absolutely did.
Yeah.
Revenue is up. Earnings per share are way up.
Wow.
And the stock price jumped almost 9% after the news came out.
So clearly investors are paying attention.
They are. They are definitely taking notice.
So what was driving these impressive earnings?
Well, a few things are at play here.
Okay.
First, they're benefiting from the trend of premiumization.
Premiumization.
Yeah. So think like Michelob Ultra or Busch Light.
Okay.
People are willing to spend a bit more for brands that they consider higher quality.
Right.
And Anheuser-Busch InBev is really capitalizing on that.
So are they sort of honing their marketing to emphasize that?
Yeah, they've really honed their marketing to emphasize the premium aspects of these brands,
Gotcha.
creating this perception of value that allows them to charge higher prices.
Right. And they're not just focusing on the premium beers, are they?
No, they're not.
What about the non-alcoholic beverage boom?
Exactly. You've got Corona Cero, Budweiser Zero.
Right.
These are smart moves tapping into that growing health-conscious consumer base worldwide.
For sure.
In fact, just look at Q3 2024 alone.
Okay.
Their non-alcoholic revenues soared by over 30%.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it's a big market.
So it sounds like things are looking pretty good for them, particularly here in the U.S.
Yeah, the U.S. market definitely seems to be stabilizing after that whole Bud Light boycott that we saw earlier.
Right.
But when you look globally, it's a bit of a different picture.
Really?
Yeah, overall sales volumes are actually down.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
And speaking of global issues, remember when Anheuser-Busch InBev wanted to pull out of Russia?
Oh, yeah.
Seems like Putin wasn't too keen on that idea.
No, he was not a fan of that idea at all.
So what happened?
Well, he basically forced them to hand over their joint venture to local control.
Wow.
Which creates, a whole new level of geopolitical risk for the company.
Right.
And it's not just Russia. Markets like China and Argentina are also showing some weakness.
Okay, so it's kind of like the U.S. recovery is encouraging.
Yeah.
But these international challenges could put a damper on their growth.
Exactly. It's a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, it sounds like a bit of a roller coaster ride on the global front.
It really...
But, it seems like Anheuser-Busch InBev is making some strategic moves to kind of reassure investors.
Oh, absolutely.
What are they doing?
Well, they just announced a $2 billion share buyback program, which is double what they did in 2023.
Huge.
So that's a pretty bold statement.
Okay.
And they also bumped up their dividend by a healthy 22%.
Nice.
These actions clearly signal that they have confidence in the company's future.
Okay, so that brings us to the big question on everyone's mind.
Right.
Is BUD a good investment right now?
Well, let's take a look at their current price-to-earnings ratio.
Okay.
It's actually below its 5-year average and pretty much in line with the rest of the beverage industry.
So does that mean it's potential undervalued?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you've got these strategic moves, strong growth potential in premium and non-alcoholic drinks.
Right.
And a rebounding U.S. market.
Right.
But on the other hand, there are those global headwinds.
Right.
Geopolitical risks.
Sure.
And the fact that the stock is still trading below its 50-day and 200-day moving averages.
Okay.
It's a complex situation with no easy answer.
And speaking of those moving averages,
Yeah.
let's take a quick look at some other technical indicators.
Okay.
What do the charts tell us?
Well, here's what I find interesting.
Okay.
While BUD is currently trading below those key averages, we are seeing a double bottom pattern forming.
At the bottom.
Yeah. So imagine the stock price dipping down twice to roughly the same level,
Okay.
creating kind of a W shape on the chart.
Gotcha.
That's your double bottom.
Okay. And for someone who's not like a charting guru,
Right.
what does that mean?
Well, traders often see a double bottom as a potential sign of a bullish reversal.
Okay.
Like the stock is saying, hey, I'm ready to bounce back.
Right.
But of course, we need to see confirmation from other indicators and the overall market trends.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
The earnings beat, the trends driving their growth, the challenges they face internationally, some signals from the technical side.
Right.
It's a lot to process.
It is.
What are your initial thoughts on all of this?
Well, I think the big takeaway here is that Anheuser-Busch InBev is at a crossroads.
Okay.
They're making smart moves to adapt to changing consumer preferences and capitalize on growth opportunities.
Sure.
But they're also facing some significant external pressures.
Okay.
Whether those pressures ease or intensify will likely determine their success in the coming years.
I think that's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the, short-term market fluctuations.
Yeah.
But it's these larger trends and challenges that will ultimately shape the company's long-term trajectory.
Absolutely.
So for investors, it's not just about looking at the numbers,
Right.
but also understanding the story behind them.
The bigger picture.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that story is all about navigating this rapidly evolving landscape from, shifting consumer demands to geopolitical uncertainties.
Right. So given all these factors, how should investors approach Anheuser-Busch InBev?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. Should they be buying BUD, holding on to their shares, or maybe even considering selling?
Well, it's a decision that hinges on carefully weighing those potential rewards against the risks.
Right.
You have to consider your own investment goals,
Okay.
your risk tolerance, and your overall portfolio strategy.
Makes sense.
There's no one-size-fits-all answer here.
It sounds like doing your due diligence is more important than ever in this case.
Absolutely.
But to help our listeners get started,
Okay.
maybe we can recap some of the key takeaways from our conversation.
Sure. Let's do that.
First and foremost, Anheuser-Busch InBev delivered a strong Q4 earnings beat,
They did.
despite those global challenges.
Right. In spite of all that.
Yeah, revenue and earnings per share are both up,
Yeah.
creating some positive momentum.
Uh-huh.
Second, the U.S. market,
Yes.
which is a significant piece of their business,
Absolutely.
seems to be recovering nicely after that Bud Light boycott.
It does seem to be bouncing back.
Thanks in part to the strength of those premium brands like Michelob Ultra.
And Busch Light.
Exactly. They're really performing well.
Third, and this is crucial, they're strategically positioned to capitalize on two massive global trends.
I agree.
The increasing demand for premium beverages and the explosion of a non-alcoholic beverage market.
That's right. Huge growth potential there.
And let's not forget their recent moves to boost shareholder value, that substantial share buyback program, and that healthy dividend increase.
Can't forget about those.
Yeah, those are clear signals they're confident in their future.
Yeah, those are definitely positive signs for investors.
But here's a caveat.
Okay.
Those global headwinds and geopolitical risks we discussed haven't magically disappeared.
Unfortunately, no. Those are still factors.
And from a technical perspective, the stock is still trading below those key moving averages.
Yeah, that's true. Suggesting that some bearish pressure remains.
So it's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag.
That is.
Really positive developments, coupled with some lingering concerns.
Exactly.
So how can our listeners make sense of it all?
Well, this is where critical thinking comes in.
Right.
You have to ask yourself, how much weight do you give to each of these factors?
Okay.
Are you more focused on short-term technical signals or long-term growth potential? What's your own assessment of those global risks?
Right. And how do those fit within, your own personal investment strategy?
Exactly.
Are you looking for growth income?
Yeah.
Or a combination of both?
These are all questions investors need to grapple with.
There's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's important to think about these things carefully.
One thing that stands out to me is the potential impact of those global headwinds.
Yeah.
If we were to see, for example, a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine, that would likely ease some of those geopolitical tensions and potentially benefit Anheuser-Busch InBev's global operations.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
It's all about understanding the interconnectedness of these factors and considering the various scenarios
For sure.
that could play out.
It's not a simple equation.
For me, the non-alcoholic beverage trend is particularly fascinating.
Yeah, me too.
It's not just a fad.
Right.
It's a fundamental shift in consumer preferences,
I agree.
driven by health concerns,
Uh-huh.
changing lifestyles, and evolving social norms.
It's a cultural shift.
Yeah.
And Anheuser-Busch InBev seems to be embracing this shift wholeheartedly with new product launches and aggressive marketing campaigns.
Yeah, it seems like they're really going all in on this trend.
They're not just dipping their toes in the water, they are diving headfirst into this trend.
And that's what I find intriguing.
Yeah.
They're a legacy company,
Right.
a giant in the industry.
A behemoth.
Yeah, but they're demonstrating this willingness to adapt and evolve, which is crucial in today's dynamic market.
It's essential for survival in this industry.
It's like they're trying to shed that image of being just a beer company and position themselves as like a broader beverage company.
Right.
A company that's in tune with the changing tastes and preferences of consumers worldwide.
Exactly. They're not just selling drinks. They're selling experiences, lifestyles, a connection to a broader community.
And that, I think, is what sets them apart from some of their competitors.
I think so, too.
They're not just reacting to change.
Right.
They're trying to anticipate it and shape it.
They're being proactive.
Exactly.
It's a bold strategy, and it will be interesting to see how it plays out in the coming years.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing is clear.
What's that?
Anheuser-Busch InBev is not standing still.
They're on the move.
They're making strategic bets, taking calculated risks, and positioning themselves for what they believe will be a future of continued growth.
And that's what investing is all about, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Assessing those bets, understanding those risks, and ultimately deciding whether you believe in the company's vision for the future.
That's the essence of investing.
So it sounds like Anheuser-Busch InBev is really trying to stay ahead of the curve, but for investors, the question remains.
Yeah.
Is it enough to justify buying their stock right now?
Well, that's a decision each individual investor has to make based on,
Right.
their own research and assessment.
Sure.
What we've tried to do today is give you the information and insights to make an informed decision.
Yeah, we've looked at, their recent performance, the trends shaping their future, the challenges they face.
Yeah, it's a complex picture.
And we've tried to present a balanced perspective, highlighting both the potential opportunities and the potential risks.
Exactly. Investing always involves a degree of uncertainty.
Right.
And this case is no exception.
But here's the final thought for you to consider.
Okay.
Think back to those global headwinds we discussed. What if those headwinds start to shift?
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, what if we see some positive geopolitical developments?
Like what?
Like a resolution to the conflict in Ukraine.
Okay.
What if the global economy picks up, steam-boosting consumer spending worldwide?
Yeah, that would definitely have an impact.
That would certainly change the equation for a global company like Anheuser-Busch InBev.
For sure, it would create a whole new set of opportunities.
It's not just about looking at where things stand today.
Right.
But also considering the potential for change down the road.
That long-term view is so important.
So to wrap things up,
is
Anheuser-Busch InBev a buy, a hold, or a sell?
Well,
we've given you the information.
We've laid it all out for you.
Now it's up to you to make the call.
Do your own research. Consider your own investment goals and risk tolerance.
Right.
And then decide if Anheuser-Busch InBev is the right fit for your portfolio.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today on Investing Talk Podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope you found this episode informative and helpful as you navigate the exciting world of investing.
Absolutely. There's always something new to learn.
And don't forget,
Okay.
if you enjoyed this episode of Investing Talk Podcast, please subscribe to our channel, share it with your friends,
Spread the word.
and leave us a comment below with your own thoughts on Anheuser-Busch. InBev, we love hearing from our listeners.
Yeah, we love to hear what you guys are thinking.
Until next time, happy investing.
Happy investing, everyone.